of islands was given, little complicated. These are for academicians, but still I prefer the simple definition. But over a period of time, the definition of island has changed. Now, island is not necessarily a piece of land which is surrounded by water. It can be any habitat which is surrounded by unsuitable habitat, where species cannot move easily to nearby area. They remain confined to a particular habitat. So that is also called an island. And if you know about the definition of habitat islands, then you will find that this definition is quite relevant. And because of this habitat island, we could understand the importance of corridor in wildlife management. If you know the definition of the concept of habitat islands, then you will realize the importance of corridors. Now, types of islands, I told you they are mostly basic slides. There are mainly two types of islands: continental islands, which are formed on the continental shelf, maybe through different processes. One is very long process. The siltation comes near the shoreline and started building an island. And over a period of thousands of years, the layers get compact and island evolve. Then many land features also get disconnected due to various geophysical processes. They become island. And one is that oceanic island that is formed because of the volcanic activities and tectonic movements of plates. So these are the basic things. Artificial islands, if you happen to visit Dubai, there you can find that UAE government is making artificial islands also there. Now coming to life on islands. See, if you read the book on literature on island biodiversity, it is mentioned that any island may be very, very remote, but it still will have some life. Now the question comes from where the life comes on these islands, which are very, very far. So there are many ways. Birds can play important role in taking seedlings, spores, even small spiders, insects from mainland to islands, far-flung islands. And what Darwin also, when he collected samples from the air when he was on his voyage, he found spores also in the wind, very small insects and spiderlings. Another means of migration of species is through rafts. Many animals like lizards and small animals and insects, they are on a small log, and through wave action, they reach island. I think that the next slide is really more clear. You can see through aerial passes also these small insects and spider and spores, they reach island. Then there are aerial route by through birds. Birds carry a lot of seeds and insects. Then there is a passive way of aquatic way where these small lizards and other animals, they just ride some small log and through wave action they reach another island. And then active aquatic pressure process like coconut and propagules of mangrove, they also reach other islands through wave action. Now normally I take a little time on Darwin, but now since we have limited time, so I will not speak much about the Darwin. But you will be surprised that Darwin stayed in the Galapagos Islands only for 5 weeks. And he developed that theory of evolution, that origin of species, because he could see lot of things there which at that time he could not understand. But after his return to mainland, he collected a lot of specimens. He gave those specimens to his friends. One was an expert on birds, then one was a botanist, and his own mentor, John Henslow. And all these people helped Darwin to to in evolving the theory. What Darwin saw there was one was very famous finches. Darwin's finches, you might have heard about Darwin's finches. That was one thing. There also he could not understand that the importance of those finches. And one another thing was about the tortoise. He found giant tortoise there, and he noticed one thing that there was differences in the shell of tortoise, very marked differences. And in one of the islands, he met one British governor. His name was Hans Lawson, Nicholas Lawson. Nicholas Lawson told him that you bring any tortoise to him, and seeing its shell, he can with definite confidence that from which island that tortoise has come. Darwin noted down this in his book, but at that time he did not pay much attention to this. After he returned, he started analyzing all his data and all the specimens he brought, and suddenly he started thinking in that direction. Darwin never believed in the theory of creation by God, but here that was the point of difference with his wife, because his wife was a very strong believer in God in church. So because of this, Darwin could not publish his work. And in the same time, around 1850, there's another scientist who might have heard about Alfred Russel Wallace. Wallace was working in Malaya archipelago, and whatever he saw on those islands, he also came out with the same kind of theory, and he sent his paper to Darwin. Darwin was shocked to see that what he was developing the theory, Wallace has come to the same conclusion. Then he consulted his friends. They said, no, Wallace should also be given credit. So this theory of evolution of species, the paper on that was read in the Linnean Society in London, where credit was given to both Darwin and Wallace. But now most of the people, they know this origin of species theory by Darwin only, but this theory of evolution, Wallace has equal contribution. So I will not go in further details here. Now about these finches, you can see about this a particular bird, variety of finch. How this bird has adapted to island life? It imitates a woodpecker. Its beak is not that long. So what it does is that it takes out a cactus spine, and with the help of that spine, it makes a hole in the bark to get the worm. This is another, of course, Darwin could not locate this particular bird, and it was discovered later on. It feeds on nectar of cactus. So its beak is adapted in such a way that it can feed on the nectar of the cactus. So these adaptations he observed on the islands, and later on analyzed all these things to develop his theory of evolution. Now these are some unique features of island biodiversity. One is endemism. Endemism, I think all of you must be knowing about the endemism. The particular species remained confined to a particular place is called endemic. So endemism is very high in all the islands, because what happens is over a long period of isolation and limited resources, the original species try to adapt to the whatever is available on the islands, and they normally diverged into different types of varieties to suit themselves to the conditions in the island, and leading to some endemic species. Very important point is gigantism and dwarfism. You might have heard about big island birds like dodo, solitaire, elephant birds, New Zealand's mao. Most of the island birds who have become extinct, they were quite big in size, very heavy in size. And one of the reasons that why, and Darwin also saw a lot of giant size tortoise. He found reptiles also which were very giant in size. So the explanation for this, though sometimes it is debatable, that because there are lot of food resources available, and the animal feeds a lot on that, and slowly they started growing in size. But there is another thing is dwarfism. This is found in mostly in insect, and here the explanation given is that if, because insects they have a particular food plant as their food habit. So if food resource is limited, the only option with the particular living being is that it reduces its body size. So dwarfism is also observed on islands. The number of species become small in body size, so that their food requirement is also limited, so they can maintain their population. Flightlessness, might have heard about the flightless birds. All of you must be knowing about the ostrich, kiwi, and birds like dodo, solitaire, elephant bird. So why these were flightless? The reason given is that because in islands you have plenty of food, and there is no predator in island. What happens is that when you have, why you need mobility? We need mobility for two very important things. One is that you need food. For that you have to search for food. You need mobility. Second is protection. If there is any danger, we try to protect ourselves, and we have to move. In islands there was no predator, so birds were not required to fly. They were getting their food resources very easily. They were no danger to them. So slowly their flight muscles became very weak. They were able to just fly for a very small distance, and this has been one of the reasons of their going extinct. And another similar feature is fearlessness. So there was no predator, so these birds, they were not feeling danger from any of other species, because in most of the islands carnivores were not there. Even if any carnivore was there, it was introduced. In Andaman Nicobar Islands also there is no carnivore except that marine thing, marine crocodile. Otherwise there is no carnivore there. So because of that also, this fearlessness led to their extinction. You might have heard about the case of dodo. Dodo was a comparatively bulky bird, which was not only flightless, but also it was quite curious. So whenever sailors reached the island, it used to come out of curiosity, and it became an easy prey to those sailors as a food item. And this led to continuous hunting of dodo, led to the extinction of dodo. Same was the case with solitaire. I think most of you must have heard that phrase, as dumb as dodo or as stupid as dodo. But dodo used to come out without thinking that there can be a danger from the human beings. One example is another example is a particular bird in Stephens Island of New Zealand. Its name is the bird is wren, WREN, wren. The entire population of that Stephen Island bird, it was wiped out because of introducing one cat by a lighthouse keeper. That bird finished. It is said that it finished the entire population of this Stephen Island wren bird. Of course, later on, further researches lead to clarify that it was not only single bird. In fact, there were a pair of cats which was brought by the lighthouse keeper, and its population increased to around 300 feral cats which were hunting this bird. Later on, the administration there, it ordered for the shooting of those cats, but by the time these cats were removed from those islands, the entire population of this flightless bird became extinct. Many birds in New Zealand, if you go into the literature on, if you see literature on the internet, you will find many bird species from the New Zealand have become extinct in last 2 centuries, in 1800 and 1900, because of human interference. Now I will come to a very interesting island biogeography model. It was given by MacArthur and Wilson. This model, of course, has been later on debated and a lot of modification have been done. But it's quite basic model to understand many about the biogeography, or not only of islands, but also of the habitat islands as well. So as per this model, in any island, let's first understand what is biogeography. I think all of you must be knowing what is biogeography. It is species richness or species distribution over time and space. So they give this model just to understand how many species can survive on an island. So that they came to a conclusion that there are two factors and two processes which are necessary to determine the number of species that can survive on an island. The two processes are immigration of species, and another is the extinction from the island. And these two processes depend on two factors. One is the distance from the mainland or the source of species, and another important factor is area of island. Now within this diagram, we can understand what happens is that in the island, these species come from some source, some mainland. Species have not evolved on an island, or not, there is no origin of species on island. They have come migrated from some nearby source, and that immigration depends on the distance of island. Islands will, if you see in this slide, there are two islands, A and B. A is near to mainland and B is far from mainland. So immigration rate will be higher on A compared to B. It is very, I mean, it's a matter of common sense. But when we come to extinction, then it is the size of the island which matters. Because on a bigger island, resources are more, so more species can survive. So, and this immigration has nothing to do with the size. Similarly, extinction has nothing to do with the distance of island from the source. So after some time, what happened initially, what happened, I will go to the first slide. Here, if you see, what happens is that in immigration, in the beginning, when there is no species on an island, the immigration rate is very high. Lot of species come, and slowly when number increases, then the rate of immigration comes down. The reverse is extinction. Initially, extinction is very less because lot of resources are there, so species colonize them on the island. But when there is a competition and limited resources on the island, then extinction starts. So with time, extinction increases. Now we come to this slide when there is an equilibrium between the extinction and immigration rate. That particular point here, you can see this intersection point. This will determine the number of species in an island once equilibrium is there. But this is an ideal situation. In fact, this does not happen because there are a number of other factors which also play a role in that. Now, let's see if an island is closer to mainland, what will the curve? What will happen here? If island is closer to the mainland, immigration will be very, very high in the initial phase, and it will be a very sharp curve. And extinction is not affected by the distance from mainland, so a number of species will be more in an island. But if a island, same size island is at a distance far from mainland, immigration will be very, very slow, and extinction will remain same. So here number of species will be less if the island is far from mainland. Now, if we overlap everything, this particular graph you will find in many books. So here we can see where we can have maximum number of species. So here we see that maximum number of species at this point, where the island is large and is near to mainland. If you see this, extinction is intersection is here, and minimum number will be here where the island is far from mainland and it is small in size. So this is the basic model of Arthur and Wilson and Arthur, and a lot of modification sites were suggested. They also gave a mathematical equation, species area relationship, but I'm not going into details of that. Now, these are some points which already I discussed. That extinction rate on islands have been very, very high. If we see in last 400 years, of 724 species which have gone extinct, 351 species they belong to island. And if you see this chart, you will see mammals out of 83 species which have gone extinct, 51 belong to islands. In case of birds, out of 113 species, 92 birds which have gone extinct, they belong to island. Reptiles is, of course, the number percentage-wise, it is very high. In case of amphibians, there has not been any extinction, because see, it's very surprising that amphibians never reached any island. And this was the point which with which Darwin debated with Church on the theory of creation by God. He very clear, if you read Darwin's statements, where he has written very clearly, had it been the creation by God, amphibians would have been on the islands. They are only introduced by human beings. If you go to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you will find plenty of frogs, but they were brought in there by Japanese. Snails and frogs were brought by Japanese as food items. So that is the reason that there has been no extinction of any amphibian on islands. Now, if you see this chart, you will see maximum extinction has taken place in last 150 or 200 years. This data is only up to 1950. There may be more extinction after that. This is about the birds and mammals. Now, to validate that model of Arthur and Wilson, this case of Krakatau, I don't know how many of you are aware of that. This was an island. If you see this particular picture, the original island was quite big, near Indonesia, near Sumatra, and it was surrounded by two another islands. So in 1883, the volcano there erupted. It was the biggest explosion in the recent time. It was such a big explosion that 36,470 people, I recorded death, were 36,417 maybe. There may be more death, and its sound was heard up to 4,800 kilometers. In fact, this volcano became active in around May 1883, but the big explosion took place on the evening of 26th and 26th August, and four explosions. The third was the heaviest, took place on 27th of August. And after that, what happened? If you can see, only the entire island got submerged. Only this part of Krakatau, which was Nakata, remained there. And in 1927, a new island emerged. Of course, few scientists predicted that one island will emerge because of the volcanic activities, and it was given the name. It was given the name as Anik Krakatau, means baby Krakatau, or child of Krakatau. So here what happened, just after about 2 months, one researcher went there. He could not He could not find any sign of life except one spider. There no life. Then after about 5 months, another research team went there. They found that grasses were coming up, and they also found shrubs. And then somewhere in 1985, after 3 years, tree shrubs were there. Even one lizard was also found, and birds were also coming to that island. And by 1935, there were 270 species of plants which came to these islands from different sources. Some 15 species are brought by human beings, 17 came through animals, birds, mostly by birds. Then 75 were through wind, and 110 75 through water, and 110 through winds from the nearby islands. So life started that. There you can see the immigration process. There was no life in August 1883, but within 2 years, there were around 100 species of plants in those islands. And by 1935, 200 species of plants were there. And animals, birds species, I don't remember exactly. I think about 120 birds were visiting that island. And another very interesting thing was 50 species of plants which were detected earlier, they had gone extinct. That means extinction was also going on. So these two processes of immigration and extinction, they were taking place in the Krakatau Island. That this validates that theory of island biogeography. I am telling all these things because when I discuss the issues of Andaman Nicobar Islands, if you are aware of these basic facts, you will appreciate those and rather discuss and debate with me more clearly with these issues. There are some recent extinctions. I will not go into details of that. These are some problems. Distinct islands have always distinct culture. Their culture is quite different. I don't know how many of you have visited Andaman Nicobar Islands, but there you can see that what kind of culture is there. Here I would like to tell you something. This is very peculiar about Andaman Nicobar Islands. Because I'm not going to cover that in details about that, because that itself is a big topic to discuss and debate. That is about Aboriginal tribes. There are 6 Aboriginal tribes on these islands. They are distributed in different, like Nicobar Islands. Champans are there, which are forest dwellers. Then Nicobaris are there, which are now quite educated, and they are in mainstream. And in Little Andaman, there is a tribe called Ongis. Interesting feature about Ongis is that their population for last more than 100 years is approximately 100. Sometimes it becomes 96, sometimes 102, 103. So population growth is not there. Then in Andaman side, there is 3 Aboriginal tribes, Great Andamanis. Then Jarwas, probably many of you must have about the Jarwas. And Sentinelese. Sentinelese, they are still primitive. There is no human contact with them. So this is a kind of different kind of culture. But that culture has been disturbed by the influx of people. This I will cover when I come to about the socio-economic problems of Andaman Nicobar Islands. Islands always have very small economy. You can't produce things on a large scale. Remoteness from international market, high cost of transport. I won't discuss these things in much details because let me discuss more about the management issues. Now, this is a very important thing. By invasive alien species, human intervention on islands have caused havoc on many islands. New Zealand is one, Hawaii Island is one, many islands, even in Andaman Nicobar Islands, this is quite visible. When you introduce any invasive species, alien species, it creates ecological imbalance in the islands. I will give you a case of introduction of deer in that I will discuss separately. And that one example I gave you about that New Zealand's Stephen Island wren, where that introduction of feral cats led to the wiping out of that particular bird from the island. Another example of invasive alien species. Then, if your these Parthenium and what is that other grass, when they are introduced in islands, they spread like anything and led to extinction of many other plant species. And if plant species are affected, insects are also affected because insects need specific food plants. So if particular food plant is becomes extinct, the particular insect population will also become extinct. Climate change, of course, you might have read a lot about this, that concern of climate change on the small islands. Because if sea level rises, what will happen? Many islands may get submerged. This, in fact, happened when tsunami came to Andaman Nicobar Islands. Certain islands got totally submerged. One megapod sanctuary was there near Great Nicobar. It got totally submerged. So because of natural disaster and because of climate change also, islands are going to be affected a lot. And because of this, in the CBT now, there is a special chapter on island biodiversity, and many measures have been taken to see how we can protect our island biodiversity. This slide. So in India, there are two oceanic group of islands, Andaman Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. Lakshadweep I visited, but I don't have much knowledge about Lakshadweep Islands, about the biodiversity conservation. Now let's go to Andaman Nicobar Islands. How much time do I have, Dr. Maheshwari?
Sir, we have substantial time. We have around like 25 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we need some time for discussion also, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes. For Q&A session.
I will try to finish it in next 15 minutes, so that for about 10
sure,
minutes
sir, great.
or 15 minutes we can
Sure,
have
sure.
discussion.
Sure,
so these
sir.
are the, if you see this map of Andaman Nicobar Islands, we can divide them in two groups of islands, and here somewhere in between there is a 10-degree channel. So although islands above 10-degree channel are Andaman group of islands, and below 10-degree channel, this is Nicobar group of islands. And these two group of islands have quite different kind of flora and fauna. So before tsunami, that figures of number of islands were 349. But now if you see the Andaman website, which is mentioned 562. In fact, they have included small rocks also, which have no life into this number. To me, the number is still around 349, because after tsunami, some new islands have emerged and many islands have become submerged. So exact number of islands only Survey of India can tell us. When I was there as additional PCCF, I wrote letters to Survey of India to let us know how many islands are now there. But of course, I could not get any response from them. And similarly, about the area, geographic area, this figure is also quite old figure, and there are a lot of geophysical changes after tsunami. So I am pretty sure that the area figures must have also been changed. But at present, unless it is confirmed by Survey of India, we cannot revise the old figures. One important thing is about the coastline, because this is very important. India's total coastline is around 6,000 kilometers. So 1/3 of India's shore coastline belongs to these islands. Now you can see the diversity. If you see the plant diversity per 1,000 square kilometer, the alpha diversity is very high in case of these islands. And out of this, 10% plants are endemic. 40 have non-endemic. They are found not in India, other parts of India, but in the neighboring country. One important thing is you can see the 50 species, they were collected only once. After that, they were not collected. Uh, the problem with these islands is that Botanical Survey of India has not yet completed their survey in many of the islands because of their remoteness and very, very difficult approach. If proper survey is done, and it has to be done on a temporal basis, then only we can come to some conclusion about how many species have really gone extinct. The number must be much more than 50 species. Then about this animal diversity, this is a more important slide. Now you can see that that Andaman Nicobar Islands constitute only 0.3% of India's geographic area. But if you see the species richness, it is quite high. For example, in case of mammals, 16% of mammals of India, they are found in these islands, though they represent only 0.3% of geographic area. Birds also about 20% and reptiles. And endemism is very high. Mammal, it is 60% of mammals are endemic to these islands. Birds also 40%. And reptiles, 30% of reptiles are endemic. And if you see marine diversity, the corals now number has gone much more than, because the Zoological Survey of India is updating their figures regularly. They have not yet completed their survey of Nicobar group of islands. And last time when I met their officer in charge of Zoological Survey of India in Port Blair, it was in 2019. He told me that number now may go more than 600, and it will be second to the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, the richness of coral species. And some are exclusively, they are found only in Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. Now these are the management issues. Endemism, as I told you, endemism is very, very important because these endemic species are very prone to introduction of invasive alien species. I give you an example of Narcondam. There is an island called Narcondam. It is a volcanic island, but volcano is dormant, and it is very, very remote. And a hornbill is found there, which is endemic. It is called Narcondam hornbill. And this Narcondam hornbill, it lays its nest on somewhere in the middle of a tree, not in the quarter of a tree, which is not very high. This is one another important feature of the birds of islands. Normally, they lay their eggs on the ground because earlier there was no predator. Nicobar megapod is there in the Nicobar. It also lays its eggs on the ground. In mainland, you will find most of these birds, they make their nest on top of branches on some high places as a measure of protection to their eggs from predators. But in case of many birds of islands, they lay their eggs either on the ground or slightly higher elevation. So here what was happening in the Narcondam island, this island is very near to Burma, Myanmar. And I don't know whether you heard about that Cocoa Islands of Myanmar. This was given to them to China for some strategic reason. So Narcondam also became a very, very important strategic island for government of India. So they posted police there. And these police people, they were going when I joined Andaman Nicobar in my first posting. These police people, they were going in batches. For every 3 months, one batch of police personnel used to go. They remained stationed there, and after 3 months, another contingent will go and this will come back. So what these people did, they bring with them goats for milk purpose and also some dogs. And that time, one scientist from SECON, who later become director of SECON, Unfortunately, that fellow died of heart attack. Very, very committed scientist, Dr. Ravi Shankar. So he was doing a study on that. I was chief life warden, and he came to me. Then he said, "Sir, you have to remove these goats from the islands and put your people, forest people, also on that, so that they can stop these police personnel from hunting." Then I told him, I discussed with him. Then I told him, then I convinced him that posting forest people in that island will not help. But now police people are doing hunting, then forest personnel will also do hunting. If you are in a very remote island, you have no means of any recreation, no TV, no radio, nothing. And some birds are easily available to you. So the only thing I suggest him that we will request our Lieutenant Governor to issue orders to remove these goats, and also police personnel, minimum police personnel should be there, and there should be more patrolling by the Coast Guard and Navy of these islands if it is strategic. So what was happening? Lot of goats became feral. You might not have heard about the feral goats. They are found only in two islands. One is Narcondam, another is Barren. Barren Island is the only active volcano in India, and it is believed that these goats drink salt water. So anyway, so I raised this issue in the State Wildlife Board meeting, and though the police people they didn't agree to withdraw the police personnel, but they agreed they will transport all the goats and dogs from those islands. And after 6 months, they gave me a report that all dogs and goats have been removed from the islands. So these kinds of issues are there. Same thing was happening in the Great Nicobar also about the megapod, because it was laying eggs on the ground. So a lot of Bihari laborers who were there, they were getting these eggs very easily. That was very difficult. So we had to launch some education programs to make these laborers aware of that you have to conserve this bird. Otherwise, this will also become extinct. And luckily, most of those people could understand that, and we could save a lot of nest of megapod. So there are other examples also, but now I have limited time. So I will come to this very interesting stories about deer and elephant. See, deer was introduced. Deer and mammals, big mammals are not island animals. Big animals cannot survive, and carnivore cannot survive on islands because carnivores will not get enough food for a long time. So what happened? Deer was introduced by the Britishers from the period from 1905 to 1930. So its population was increasing because all of you know that deer is a prolific breeder if food resources are there. So its population was increasing, but that time Wildlife Protection Act was not there. There was no restriction of hunting. So people of Andamans, they were eating. They were killing deer and they were eating. So human beings were the natural predator of deer. Population was under control. But when Wildlife Protection Act came into 1972, the deer, cheetal, it was kept in Schedule 3. So its hunting was banned, but still there was a clause that the state government can declare any Schedule 3 or 4 animal as vermin for a particular period, and hunting can be allowed. So administrator of these islands, he was allowing people to hunt deer. But when the amendment, Wildlife Protection Act Amendment 1991 came, that power of declaring any species as vermin was taken away from the state government. So the real problem started after 1991. Hunting was banned totally, and there was no predator. So its population was growing. And you will not believe that in Andamans, almost every island of Andamans has presence of deer, except for that Narcondam and Barren Island. You will find this cheetal everywhere. A lot of greenery is there. Their population increasing. But The ecological impact is that which we are not realizing now. It is eating up lot of regeneration of important species. So we will come to know about the impact of deer after about 50 years or 100 years. And this was the reason, as Chief Wildlife Warden, I put up the proposal of allowing hunting of this, declaring deer chital as a vermin, and I got it passed with my arguments. I got it passed through the State Wildlife Board, and we sent this to Government of India because after 1991 it was the Government of India who can approve. But again, I will not say because most of you have not worked under Government of India. How difficult it is because people don't understand. Everybody was worried about one particular animal lover minister. I won't name, but you can understand. They kept telling me, a Chief Wildlife Warden, under Section 11 of Wildlife Protection Act, you can allow hunting. But my argument was that it gives the power to Chief Wildlife Warden to declare, to allow hunting, but hunting of not the population, hunting of a particular animal who has become a threat to human life. I mean, a Chief Wildlife Warden cannot give blanket permission to wipe out the entire population of any species. This is unethical also. It is not the correct interpretation of Section 11 of Wildlife Protection Act. So in that process, nothing has happened, though I took up this matter many times, but nothing happened. Still the deer, if you happen to go to Andaman Nicobar Islands, or if you have, some of you might have visited the Havelock Island. No, sorry, not Havelock, Ross Island, which is near Port Blair. You go there, you can get a picture of yourself with the deer. Deer will come to you. Their entire that wildlife instinct has gone. They will come to you expecting that you will give. They will eat biscuit also. I have some photographs where people are feeding them biscuits. They are eating biscuits, and you just sit beside them. They will give photograph. So that kind of thing is their natural instinct is going away. But again, people sitting in the Government of India don't bother for it. Another interesting example is elephant. Elephant is again not an island. Britishers brought elephant basically for the purpose of extraction. So Forest Department also had, still they have a lot of elephants, and there were industries. There were industries, the wood-based industries were also having elephants. So what happened? Some people got the contact of clearance of forest earlier, not in the recent years, because Supreme Court has put a total ban on commercial felling in these islands. So these elephants were brought in by some private people also. One particular case of Interview Island, I'm taking this. Interview Island is quite a big island. So one particular BC Rand company got permission for felling of trees in that island, somewhere in 1950, 54, or 57, like that. So they brought in a lot of machinery and 4 elephants. They brought only 4 elephants to that island. But when they reached the Interview Island, then they realized it is almost impossible to do extraction. Conditions were so harsh. So what they did, they left their equipments also, the machinery also, and those feral elephants also there. Not domestic elephants. Now those domestic elephants have turned into feral elephants, and their population, last authentic census was done in 1994 by some scientist, Mr. Gupta. He reported 70. And I also engaged one Dr. Raufali, who is now no more. He was earlier with the Wildlife Institute of India. He also used another method that was somewhere in 2001. He estimated the number to be around 45. So these elephants, which are confined to particular island, you can just imagine how much ecological damage they are doing to that island. And that problem was not only confined to Interview Island, even in North Andaman, place called Diglipur, still a lot of problem of many industries people, they left their elephants then run away. and all those have become a kind of feral elephants. They keep raiding the agriculture fields, and there are sometimes death also because of elephant. Of course, death is quite comparatively quite rare, sometimes once in 10 years like that. But still, there is a threat always. So these elephants have become a nuisance. So the problem was that how to send these elephants off these islands. Nobody. I talked to Chief Wildlife Warden of Tamil Nadu. I talked to Chief Wildlife Warden of West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh. Nobody was willing to take elephants. Somebody suggested people keep giving theoretical ideas. One gave do sterilization of these elephants. I discussed with my veterinary officer. He said, "Sir, please find out where this sterilization of elephant has been successful. It has nowhere it is in the country has been successful. How do you think?" Same session was given. Dr. Maheshwari will excuse me telling the name of Wildlife History of India. Okay, go for installation of cheetal. You think is it practical? If you have thousands of deer, is it possible to trap them? And trapping is also amounts to hunting in as per Wildlife Protection Act. Trapping them and doing installation. So hunting is the only solution, in my opinion. I don't know if there can be a better solution because you people are also academician and must be having a lot of experience. So you can also suggest if something can be done. Now, there are other many points, but I will just talk to you about influx of population. See, the population of Andaman Nicobar is increasing, but it is not because of their reproduction rate is increasing. It is influx from mainland because these people from particularly from southern states and even from Bihar and West Bengal, people are coming Andaman because they get job very easily. And after tsunami, government of India pumped a lot of money for reconstruction purpose. So a lot of laborers are coming in. And what is happening if people from outside mainland comes to these islands? What happens? They will need land. Pressure on land will increase. They will need water. They will need land. So there will be pressure on the land. When I observed this thing, then I could appreciate Professor Singh's that statement. Islanders should live like islanders. He used to tell me the real problem of these islands is that these people, the maximum population of these islands are not islanders. These are the people, these are settlers who call themselves as islanders. Islanders depend on marine resources, on fishing. They will not do agriculture, they will do fishing. Even Jarwa and all these tribes, they kill fish or they hunt animals, but they don't go for agriculture or any other thing. If you do agriculture on islands, it will devastate the island. So problem was that these people who came from mainland, they were agriculturists. They started clearing the lands, forest areas, and they started raising supari plantation and plantation of spices of such. Even cashew plantation is there, which are not native species to these islands. So this is causing big harm to islands because these people are not the real islanders. They call themselves islanders, but they are not islanders. Here, those 6 Aboriginal tribes come into picture. These people are real islanders, which are not causing any threat to island ecology. But influx of population is very, very important issue. And tourism. Because see, tourism, once this Jammu and Kashmir problem is started and people, particularly the government employees, they like to come on LTC to farthest place. People started coming into Andamans as tourists under LTC. And you will not believe when in 1998, when I joined there was only one flight of Air India. And that time, Jet Airways introduced thrice a week flight from Chennai. But in 2006, when I reached Andaman again, daily 16 flights were coming from Calcutta, Chennai, and Vizag, Visakhapatnam. And today also, of course, because of this COVID, in last 2 3 years, tourism has been affected a lot. But prior to that, when I was PCCF, daily 3,000, 4,000 tourists were coming. If so much tourists come to islands, if you go to Port Blair, you will find the market full of pulp PET bottles, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Bisleri bottles, all this. Now, where will you dispose of these things? So, if you throw them in the sea, then marine life will be affected. You cannot bury them. Of course, there are some burial grounds where you keep dumping those things in the earth. But administration took a very good step. Lot of ships were coming with the goods, so they made some contract with these ships. While returning, they were returning empty. They will take all this waste from these islands to mainland. But still, ecological hazard is there. When so much tourism in Andaman, water is drinking water is a scarcity, particularly during the dry season. For these tourists, from where you will get water? People depend on rainwater there. The dam is also, there is no perennial stream, except on 1 or 2 islands, there are perennial streams. For most of the islands, there is no perennial stream. People have to depend on rainwater. So what is another scarcity? A lot of tourists come there. And the problem is that this, I won't say invasive alien species, there is another short of IS. I believe there is no IS in this audience. These people always talk of development. Development on whose cost? At the cost of biodiversity. Even I think many of you are from agriculture thing. I had a long discussion with the director of CARI. There is an institute called CARI, Central Agriculture Research Institute. Now it is renamed as CRE, Central Island Agriculture Research Institute. So that time, during my second tenure, there was one director. Now I will not name them, that particular person. He came with a project that let forest department give him all that mangrove areas which were affected by the tsunami. He would raise rice to make these islands self-sufficient. Unfortunately, during his presentation, Chief Secretary had invited me. I had to oppose. We had long discussion. Ultimately, Chief Secretary agreed with my view. I said, what is the problem if we are getting rice from mainland? And if you destroy this mangrove ecosystem, because it is not the question of mangrove only. Mangrove ecosystem is there. Lot of marine fauna, flora is there, which is dependent on the mangrove. Mangroves are affected by the tsunami, but the ecosystem still exists. It will recoup. Why you want to make these islands self-sufficient for food? Our economy, country's economy, India's economy does not depend on this island. Our present government also thinks on that line that we should make it Singapore or something like that. Why? Why we should make this? See, these islands are very, very important from two very important aspects. One is biodiversity, another is its strategic location. You people may not be aware of the fact. Probably some of you, as I'm saying, may not have been born during 1971 war. I think Dr. Maheshwari is of the age of my son, who was born in 1971 war. What happened was, if you remember, 7th Fleet started approaching India to support Pakistan. And Pakistan's one particular submarine, Ghazi, probably some of you might have seen the film Ghazi Attack, and another Raji. It was searching for INS Vikrant. INS Vikrant was our pride that time. And I was told by one Navy personnel that INS Vikrant was brought to these islands and in particular safe place it was stationed. And really, these islands are very important from strategic point of view. So we should not think of making them Singapore or Mauritius or like that, because their economy depends on tourism. Our economy does not depend on the tourism of these islands. I am of the opinion that we should preserve. I am not saying that we should stop the development, but it has to come within the definition of sustainable development. Of course, this becomes a little debatable. Same thing is about the tourism. It has to be regulated. Nobody has studied the carrying capacity of these islands. How can we allow unlimited tourism to these islands unless we study the carrying capacity? See, there is a marine national park, Mahatma Gandhi Marine National Park. We as foresters, we have restricted there. We allowed only 7 boats with a total capacity of about 250 tourists to go to Jolly each day, just to see that tourism should not affect the marine life there. And even today, if you go to Jolly, you will find good marine life there. Sometimes because of excessive warm year, that corals are affected, but they recoup themselves. A very good ability to come up again. After tsunami also, a lot of mangrove areas have come up again. Corals have come up again, but in different places. But nature takes care. Tsunami was a natural calamity, and nature takes care. I was against mangrove plantation. I had a lot of discussion in ministry. I said, no, I will not go for mangrove plantation. Nature will bring mangrove again. And it has really happened. If you go, I will be giving a presentation to you on, I think, 21st of this month on mangrove.
Yes, sir,
I will show you.
Yes.
I will show you my work which I have done on that. How mangrove have come up in 6 or 7 years time in northern one side, where it was totally gone. It has come up again. So nature takes. I firmly believe nature takes care. Then of course there are other issues like sand mining and and this aboriginal tribes itself is a big topic to talk. Of course, I am not from the anthropological science side, so I cannot. But I have my own views on that. May be correct or not, but this is not the right place to discuss. But sometimes, if we get time, we can discuss about that. So I think I stop here, and if you have any suggestion, anything to discuss or enrich my knowledge, because I also get myself enriched from academicians. I learned everything from academicians, only scientists or Zoological Survey of India, from one very good NGO. That fellow is no more, Dr. Samir Acharya. He was running an NGO, Science Society of Andaman Nicobar Ecology, and one marine biologist, Dr. Saram Kulkarni. From these people, I have been enriched. And in such forum also, I get enriched from your views. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It always be a pleasure and learning experience listening you and learning from your incredible experience. And what I always call that you being an administrator, an excellent IFS officer, and a scientist. So you are a dual combo of two incredible things in yourself. Now I would request the participants, if they have any questions, please, you may ask it now. We do have a couple of questions in the chat box. I would read them, but if anyone has a direct question, please go ahead. All right, I will take the questions from the chat box. So the first question is coming. What is the reason of fish extinction listed in the list which you represented, sir, in one of your slides? How the geography is affecting it? So I think the question is, because sir, of course the islands are island, the mammals might get extinct, but how the fish are getting extinct?
Uh, can I see that question on the?
Sir, it is in the chat box, sir.
Okay. Uh, See,
Yeah.
this particular slide is from what is available on the net, but as I understand, there have been extinction of marine species also. That may be because of sometimes this thermohaline currents are there, which are responsible for the food chain and many other things. Then climate change also sometimes is responsible. Sometimes overfishing is also one of the reasons. So there may be one of these causes. I have not gone into depth of the marine species, how they have got extinct, but there must be certain some ecological reasons, or maybe because of excessive fishing, the human interventions. Sometimes particular area, there may be some extreme conditions, maybe because of some extreme climatic conditions, like if volcano erupts, the entire area, the water becomes very heated up, or maybe some shortage of some nutrients because of change in the thermohaline currents. That may be one of the reasons. But I cannot answer this question for sure. We have to find out on the internet. If I can get the email of the person who is in this question,
Sure, sir.
I can certainly find out and respond.
Sure, sir. Sure. The next question is from Dr. Nasir. He is asking if the extinction is a natural process, what we all know, then why there is a hue and cry if the particular species are getting endangered or about to extinct?
See, I never said extinction is a natural process. Extinction which has been reported in last 400 years is mainly because of human intervention in the island. See, if you go on the internet and read about Hawaii Islands, when Polynesians reached there, within 100 years, 50% of the birds had gone extinct because people were hunting. So extinction is not a natural phenomenon. It's mostly it is caused by human intervention. See, there is a recently also I came across one research paper. Of course, I could not get the full copy of that, where they have said that in islands, before evolution of Homo sapiens, there were human beings on the islands, but that time there was no recorded extinctions. There are no sign of any extinction of species found. But it is only after that Homo sapiens started approaching island and altered its land use pattern. See, there were two main reasons behind this extinction. One was clearing of forest, natural habitat of these islands, and going for agriculture. This has happened in Hawaii Island. This has happened in many islands, and this is happening in Andaman Nicobar Islands. Because of this lot of species have gone extinct. Mostly birds, because birds were making their nest on the ground. Second thing, they were flightless. They were fearless also. So they were become easy prey to human beings, particularly sailors who were coming there. Natural extinction you will find in the mainland, where the impact of human beings is comparatively less, and where you have a scope of migration. You can migrate to a more suitable habitat. If there is a threat to you, you can always if it is a famine, people started migrating to some other place. But in islands, you have no such privilege. You cannot move. So island, there is only one saying: either adapt or perish. There is no third alternative. You have to adapt, and that adaptation has resulted into speciation, origin of new species. Yes, sir.
Yeah, certainly, sir. There are a few more questions, and we have time for that. A couple of minutes. Dr. Amarjeet Singh is asking, what are the main threats to plant diversity in islands, sir? Main threats to the plant diversity.
Okay. One is that, as I told, that change in land use pattern. Because if you clear the area for agriculture, the native plants will slowly become extinct. Another is introduction of invasive species like lantana, parthenium. All these have been introduced in some of the islands in Nicobar group, and one can go, if one goes to Great Nicobar, you can see how these new plants are coming up. This parthenium and lantana, and on one side it is comparatively less, but it may become nuisance anytime. So this is introduction. Another thing is the introduction of animals also, because if you introduce herbivores, they will also cause. I was giving you the example of deer. Now deer population is not under control. Lot of people used to give me that idea that you introduce some carnivore like tiger or leopard or like that, but nobody thinks about the long term. This idea is given by not only by some IAS people like Chief Secretary, Development Commissioner to me, even by one Lieutenant Governor. He said when tiger can survive in mangroves of Sundarbans, why it cannot survive in Andaman? It's an interesting
I
question.
can understand.
If you understand the habitat of tiger, Sundarban is a suitable habitat. Because in Sundarbans you have mangroves, but followed by big agriculture fields, human population. In Andamans, if you go out of these 349 islands, only 36 islands have human population. All other islands are without any human population. Now you introduce a tiger. First thing is that in Andamans, after mangroves, you have a very dense forest, tropical forest. Tiger cannot move in that forest. And of course, let us say tiger has colonized itself. Now, what will happen after deer population is over? What will happen? And another thing is that I will like to highlight that tiger every part is sold. And in Andaman Nicobar Islands, there is no internal poaching. Most of the poachers come from Myanmar, even from Bangladesh and Thailand. And tigers, every part is sold. So if we bring tiger to Andaman, so we will have to protect it. Now I will tell you one very true story of a pair of leopard which was introduced in somewhere in 1964. Just give me 1 minute to complete this story. One pair of leopard was brought in. Somebody might have given that idea that to introduce a leopard which will control deer population. So first thing is that where to keep, because you have to do quarantine. If you bring any animal, you have to do for quarantine of 2 to 3 weeks. So there was no enclosure for that time. There was no zoo. Mini zoo came into Andaman Port Blaine 1967. So it was before that. So they put this pair of leopard into one of the cell of the cellular jail. It was kept. Now another question came, where it is really a pair, male and female, or both are male or both are female. So anyway, one veterinary doctor confirmed that it's a pair. It was released in Middle Andaman. After that, it was never sighted. So should we repeat such type of folly? So what I was telling, this deer is causing lot of havoc in this. Probably many plant species might have gone extinct. We don't know unless a time series study, what we call temporal study on this species done. Unfortunately, very less research is done by research organization. Most of the research organization who come for research in these islands, they confine themselves to Port Blair only. I have come across very few committed scientists like Ravi Sankaran, who worked not only in the Narcondam, he worked in this Great Nicobar also, and you won't believe 3 times he had that malaria PF, which is a kind of fatal. He survived that, but his spirits were not dampened. And probably you all maybe know about the Professor Babu, P.R. Babu of Delhi University, a renowned botanist, ecologist. Once he came to me, bringing his 6th student for research in Great Nicobar. I was very happy. He said, would you provide some accommodation or things? I said, I will provide all help to you because I believe in good research. I always supported research. So I got one building vacated for those 6 students. I told those people that it will be, sorry. I told him that it will be very difficult for them, but they said, no, we will. But you will not believe, after 3 months, these students came back. They said they wanted to go home. They're almost on the verge of crying. So I was not their supervisor. I have no control on them. I said, okay, if you want to go, go. But before you leave, talk to Professor Babu. So I also talked to Professor Babu, told him that I try to motivate, but they are not listening to me. Then Professor Babu also considered, okay, let them go. If they don't want to work, what can we do? So we need committed research people. Certainly, we will come up with very good data why things are moving the way they are moving, and what will be the future of these islands. We don't know about the future, but if things are not improved, I don't see a good future of these islands.
So there are 2 more questions.
Okay.
What is the by Dr. Amarjit Singh? What is the diversity of ethnobotany in these areas, sir? The botanical practices. Do we have?
Nicobaris, they do have, and Champagne, I know they also have, but Jarvas don't disclose what they use. And Sentinel, we have no this one. And some work is done by Kerry on this. That CRE, no, CRE, yes. CRE, there are a number of scientists, they are working on different aspects. I don't have any information on that, but certainly CRE, and there is one ICMR institute also there. One during my time, the director's name was Dr. Dakshinamurthy, and some Acharya was there. I forgot his name. He was doing some good work on this medicinal plants. But ethnobotanical studies, I'm not very sure. But certainly CRE and ICMI Institute, they must be doing some good work on that. Ethnobotany.
Sure, sir. Let this be the last question. Any good timber species, again by Dr. Amarjit Singh, in these
timber
islands?
Species.
Yes.
See, the most prized one is that paddock. Have you heard of paddock? It is equivalent to teak. It is equivalent to teak. And paddock, it's a state tree of Andamans. It's very sturdy, and no warping, no insect attack. The only drawback is it's very heavy compared to teak. Teak was raised there as plantation, but the growth was not very good. So that particular climate is not suitable for teak. There are some other good trees also, like Terminalia species are also there, but costliest one is paddock. If any one of you happen to go there, you can see. But again, I will say Supreme Court has banned this any commercial utilization of or any movement of timber from island to mainland. The directives are very clear that forest should be utilized for the purpose of native population also, only, not outside. Another software which is very common species, Garjan. Garjan is not a hardwood; it is a softwood, and very tall trees are there, but there is no taker of this species.
Sure, sir. So with all these questions and a fruitful discussion, I must say that, once upon a time during the ecology classes, Wilson and Darwin, we all have, read the concepts and the principles, but I would say they've never been that much interested if they would be coupled with the real time or the real first-hand experiences, like you have started your presentation and shared your valuable and the first-hand experiences with all of us. So with these words and a humble reminder to all the participants that we would be interacting once again to Dr. Alok Saxena Sahab on the 21st March, where he will be sharing his experiences and a presentation on the mangroves with his very rich and knowledgeable experiences from the undergrounds. So great, sir. It was one of the best presentations you have made. And thank you once again for accepting our invitation to deliver this lecture. And we look forward to 21st March to listen to you once again. With a formal vote of thanks, I would request Dr. Mohammad Nasir to please deliver the vote of thanks to Dr. Alok Saxena Sahab. Dr. Nasir Sahab.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. Your presentation was really very nice, and I do agree with your concluding remark that we do not need to do heavy investment to the islands like Andaman and Nicobar, because we visit these places because of its natural diversity, natural beauty, and when we go there once, we complain for the road infrastructure, the residential infrastructure, we complain for there, and government is also trying to build the hotels and roads and everything are there, building, and after this natural beauty will be completely gone, and we will look for the another island. We will start looking for the another island. So because its nature, its attraction is because of its diversity and its natural naturality. We should preserve it, we should protect it. So I do believe in it. So with this words, I would like to, on behalf of the organizing committee and my own behalf, sir, I would like to thank you. It was really very nice, and we are looking forward for your next lecture. We will thank you, sir. It was very knowledgeable. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
So, all right, great participants. End of another day, and tomorrow we have scheduled the lectures for you. Just let me go back to my schedule. All right. So tomorrow is 9th, and we have scheduled the lectures on composite wood technology by Dr. D.P. Khali from ICFRE Dehradun. Another lecture on high impact research publication, very interesting. You must all, I would urge again to all of you that how to write scientific publications in the high impact factor journals by Dr. Mohammad Javed, Senior Research Fellow in UPM Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So he would be talking about that. And the post lunch, there is a session on the advanced composite biocomposite by Professor Arun Gupta, once again from UMP, Gambang, Malaysia. So all three great sessions are going to be held tomorrow. The detailed timing and the resource person names along with their titles of the sessions would be emailed and as well as WhatsApp you in a short while. So thank you very much, and we look forward to your more enthusiastic and more active interaction and participation in the upcoming